Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
But it's Ethereal Star too good. Shut the gate, she's home. Darcy Labella wins it. But Let's Be Glam punted off the board today and in a sensation-packed race has won it. Aromatic in a heads-up, heads down go. Aromatic wins the Counties Cup.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Weigh-In. It was feature racing coming in from Pukekohe and also our Puni. Not only that, but across the Tasman we had the Ballarat Cup and also the Gong. All of that we're going to get through this morning on Weigh-In. Not only that, joined by my co-host Michael Guerin. Michael, great to have you with us.
Morning, Em. Big hi to everybody around the country. What a crazy week when you think it's since last Weigh-In, last Monday. We've run the New Zealand Cup on a Monday, a 1,000 guineas, which we will show you later on. We've been to Karaka and sold about 26, 28 million worth of horses for the ready-to-runs. Then we've gone to counties where this new factor in New Zealand racing, the South African jockeys, has come into play again, Emily. They're making such a big impression. We'll talk to some of them later on in the program as well. So lots going on after a wild week in racing. And we probably thought the Australian carnivals were all but done. Then we come out and we've got the Gong and a Ballarat Cup with New Zealand victors in them. So it's endless, it's fun, it's non-stop at the moment, Em.
Yeah, most definitely is. And we're going to get through it, all of that this morning here on Weigh-In. We'll start with one of the features from Pukekohe. That was, of course, the Auckland Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes. And this one was won by Darcy Labella.
From out in the centre, La Bella Beals, then Express Princess, Jodlin Gal. Further out, Slave to Love. Darcy Labella being called upon, still 3 lengths off the leaders, but looking to warm up now. Down the outside, Molt Time is running on as well. They get to the 200. Darcy Labella made the lead. Out wide, Molt Time running on, Oscilletta. Jodlin Gal, Silverina poking through on the inside. It's Darcy Labella. Darcy Labella, shut the gate, she's home. Darcy Labella wins it.
Just too good, Alan.
Yeah, I was actually pleased the track came back a bit because she's run 1.8 over 1200. I didn't want it being too arduous, but that was pretty dominant.
Yeah. Look, she came with the right credentials. She was beautifully placed, wasn't she, under the conditions of the race?
Well, with the ratings, she's 99. She could be carrying 62 in a handicap, so it was a great ride too by a grumpy jockey. He was grumpy before the race.
Well, it was pretty hard for him to try and bin what happened in the previous race with Babylon Berlin, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he's a good rider, mate, and he's a professional. Did the job. Perfect.
Look, you came here with a couple of nice victories under the belt. She's been a busy mare. What more this preparation?
Oh, she'll probably have to go to the Manawatu Stakes, the Weight for Age at Awapuni, the 1400. She's actually handling 1400 really well, so we've got to have a go.
She's a wonderful mare for connections, isn't she? Doing a great job at the moment in flying form, and no doubt Alan Sherrick was rubbing the hands together with the rain that was around, and she's really just adding to the resume, and it looks like why not continue whilst she's going so well?
And the one obvious thing, Em, to add to the resume, because that was Group 2 and she's just hacked up to win. Here's the defining part of the race. Getting forced wide, Jonathan wants to go wide. He got forced too wide, he ducks back to the inside, so that's his experience. We'll talk more about Jonathan in a second, but this last 200, this is emphatic. So this is Group 2, so you say to yourself, well, what now? Because the only way she can further embellish her career without going to Australia is winning a Group 1 or getting a Group 1 placing.
Yeah. And
when you look at that, it's really hard to believe she can't do that. If Alan can extend her out to 1,600 metres, he'd have a lot more options eventually. The most obvious being the Thoroughbred Breeders at the end of the year, which is our last of the Group 1. So that would be an obvious target if she's going to get 1,600. Otherwise, if you're sticking in the 1,400 metre range, it's a lot harder. You do have the sprint at Tarapa, but that's a pretty tricky race. So I think if she can get to 1600, he gives himself a whole heap of options, and there is that Group 1 sort of floating out there in her future. Pretty good race. I thought there was enough form out of that race. Like a Molt Time horse is going really well. But as good as she was, the story of the race was Jonathan Riddell. We're about to see what happened in the previous race where he got dumped. And
had to shake it off and really put it behind him, didn't he?
Well, he did. And look, race day's bloody hard for Jonathan. Like, everybody knows he struggles with his weight. He's the least talkative of all jockeys on race day. So to cop that on a horse which he would have wanted to win on because it's, you know, mates of his train it.
And it looked a really nice chance as well. Yeah.
It just didn't work out. And for him to turn up the next race and be that settled and professional was a really good example of who he is as a jockey. Here is Babylon Berlin. This is the start of the Counties Bowl, and not a rodeo rider in the world could have stayed on this end.
It knuckles right down, doesn't it? And then, such a shame for Jonathan. You can see the disappointment on him on the ground there, and the barrier boys checking he's all okay. And importantly, horse A-OK, Jonathan A-OK, and he's able to come out and win in the next. Here's a look at the Counties Bowl. This is Let's Be Glam.
From Bonnie Lass, then followed by Sacred Satono, wider out, That's All Fine, Is That So? And then came further back in the field, then New York Jazz at the 200 metres. The only danger to Let's Be Glam at this stage is that riderless horse of those Sacred Satonos looking to wind up late, but Let's Be Glam punted off the board today, and in a sensation-packed race has won it. Let's Be Glam wins the whole Nui Farm Counties Bowl. Sacred Satono.
Well, Lance, I can imagine that's quite satisfying. That's pretty impressive first time back.
Yeah, that one meant a little bit extra, Andre. She's a mare that we've had a lot of issues with, and it's taken a big team effort to get her back to winning form. Big thanks to our farriers, the vets that work with us, all the staff at home. There's a lot of work goes into this mare, and when we get her right, she's very good.
Is it predominantly feet issues you've had along the way?
Yeah, feet issues that sort of move up, and you know, she can get a bit jarry and a little bit stiff and sore as she gets older, but we've got wonderful facilities at the farm to keep her right.
Obviously sat down with Joe and Brendan after the Queensland Carnival. What were your thoughts through that?
Yeah, we used that as a stepping stone just to see if she was going to come back, and the decision, thankfully, from Brendan, Joe and Henry was not to put her in foal and give her one more season, and I think that's going to pay dividends.
Plenty of drama at the start. One of the opposition, of course, main opposition was out of the race, so I guess in hindsight made it a wee bit easier.
Yeah, you obviously feel sorry for Ben and all the connections of Babylon Berlin. I'm not sure what happened, but it probably helped us in a little bit that we had something to follow. Otherwise, it was a long way up that straight, having led the whole way, and it just gave us something to sort of chase, so it probably helped us a little bit.
Sprinting plan in the future, what's your thoughts going forward?
Or just have to sit down and talk to everybody, but look, I think if we can keep her fresh, you know, obviously she's a Group 2 winner in New Zealand and Australia now. The Railway's a Group 1, that would just tick off her CV lovely.
A dramatic race. Wow.
Yeah, fantastic win. It's great to win a race like this. The filly really was fantastic today. You know, she really handled the track really well. She pulled me through. Everything I asked of her, it was automatic. You know, coming to the straight when I asked her to quicken, it was immediately there. And she really was very professional about what she did today, and she done it really well. The loose horse looked like it was going to run out, and it came back for me, but didn't really cost me that much. But she won a good race in the end.
A big well done to Warren Kennedy, who's making a real impact here in New Zealand since his arrival not that long ago. It feels like only a couple of weeks ago that him and Craig Zaki arrived, and already he's making such an impact within our jockey ranks. Michael, it was a really, we talked about emphatic wins, and that was another emphatic win. The money was on, beautifully prepared, and just peaked on the day.
Great training performance from Lance, and obviously raced at the Queensland Carnival, and this year more than anyone in recent memory, the Queensland Carnival form is really stacked up, you know, Sharp and Smart and so many more other horses. Tricky moment here for Warren, but he's an experienced jockey, didn't panic when Babylon Berlin continued her normal racing style without a jockey. I think the format of the race will be good because Sacred Satono was really good late.
I loved the way Sacred Satono closed it off, really got to the line well.
And we know how good Bonnie Lass is, so this should be a good form race. Whether it's railway form, they've got to give her a crack, obviously, because she's a Schnitzel mare who's won a Blue Diamond Prelude, so she's worth a stack of money, but a Group 1 further embellishes that. But when you look at this railway market, it's a pretty serious looking railway, because we have a horse like Levante is likely to turn up there, Imperatriz, stacked with mares at the absolute top level. Dragon Leap, by the way, obviously scratched out of that race because of the rain, but gee, that's a nice juicy railway for us. Not this year, of course, at Ellerslie, the railway this year at Tarapa, where Levante operates very well, but very strong railway. And the one bonus, I suppose, Let's Be Glam has for the connections is we're so used to having wet track meetings over the summer these days. It just seems to be a thing, and she can cop that, whereas some of those others, mate, not saying these ones in particular, but it gives her more options heading forward. They don't have to go to a race day and scratch if it does turn up wet.
Yeah, it makes it much more versatile, doesn't it? So the other feature on the card from Pukekohe was, of course, the Counties Cup, and it was a Quinella for Mark Walker-trained gallopers. Aromatic, the eventual winner.
Aromatic, further back, Bellon Rouge, and then came Victor Vegas down the outside with Le Sablier. 2:50 to go, taking over Aromatic. Aromatic range to the lead now. Then they're fighting on strongly, Self Obsession. Victor Vegas is warming up. Battling away, Z Falls at the 150. Aromatic from Self Obsession. Victor Vegas is winding up on the inside, but it's Aromatic and Self Obsession. Victor Vegas, Aromatic, and a heads up, heads down, go Aromatic. Aromatic wins the Counties Cup for my...
Why don't you, Mark? Congratulations. What a gutsy win.
Yeah, probably that shower rain just a few minutes ago helped, but full credit to the whole team at home. She hasn't got the best of feet, and you know the whole barn works tirelessly to keep her on the track, and Gareth Ellis and Kim Hughes have done a great job to just have her at the races today, really. So it was a good effort.
It certainly was, and she rounded into the race nicely, and you must have been confident that she'd run big from there, but she's also run second 10 times in her career, and the inside mate, stablemate, almost fought it off.
Yeah, well, Self Obsession's, you know, she's just so gutsy, so no, both mares did us proud, so you know, probably head to the Waikato Cup sort of thing with both of them.
Look, Self Obsession probably not 100% in that ground. She really was game in defeat, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, and you know, she chipped a knee after New Zealand Oaks, and she's coming up not really nicely, and hopefully she'll get her turn shortly as well.
Yeah, and as you said, a chance to continue on with those Summer Cups races for both of these horses now.
Yeah, definitely.
When you started to make your run, you must have been thinking, I'm on one here, because you made a good sustained run from about the 800-metre mark.
Yeah, I was back probably a little bit further than beyond where I wanted to be, but I just stayed out deeper with a bit of cover, and I was able to creep forward when I wanted to, and yeah, I was pretty happy the way I was going, turning in.
Maybe that shower of rain might have helped too, leading into the race.
I just said that as I get off, it's probably loosened it up a bit, which is probably more to her liking, but all the same, it was a really good tough effort.
It was, because that second horse, she's a hard horse to get past, and she gave it all her worth inside you as well.
Yeah, that's right. I've been close up against her before, and she is a hard one to get past, but no, it's a great result.
Two really honest performances there by Self Obsession and Aromatic. And as we heard from Craig, just that rain loosening the track up might have played into Aromatic's favour. But really, when you see the two of them going to the line, there was very little in it, wasn't there?
It's funny, I think, when a horse has 10 seconds, you can think it's a gunner and a horse who maybe sometimes in your mind doesn't try that hard, but as this video shows, it does try really hard. Those feet issues may have been why 10 of those seconds weren't 5 wins in 5 seconds. This is brave, and it's looped the field and come really wide. So, great win. Self Obsession clearly has a cup in it somewhere, whether it's a Waikato Cup next time up over 2400 or a City of Auckland type cup. And I thought the third horse was really strong as well. So those three are horses you can take forward, but of course Aromatic's the one who will get the biggest points handicap, and therefore will be less advantaged next time out. But look, it's I think Craig Grills is riding really well. I know
on fire, isn't he?
Premiership's really open. I think he's in a really good space at the moment. So. We're actually in a good space with our jockeys ranks now, with a couple of new additions. Cameron Lammas has come back. There's a lot more seniority in the jockeys room than we've had for quite some time. Here's the this is the Windsor Park stud Queen Elizabeth. This is what used to be the City of Auckland Cup. Okay, so this is obviously Self Obsession's on top. Not a market I'll be gambling into, but that'll be on New Year's Day. So. Yeah, plenty of cups options for all these type of horses.
There certainly are. Up next, we have the Challenge Stakes. This one was for the 2-year-olds, and a star was uncovered. And by that, we mean Ethereal Star.
In the Barfoot and Thompson Challenge Stakes, it's Villa Belmiro over on the inside who has the lead. Coming after it now, Cyclonic King. Wider out is Ethereal Star. And behind them, Balance of Power. Luberon's 4 lengths off the leader here. Further out then, we've got as they head down the straight as Pacino and Orgullo. At the 150, Ethereal Star ranged up to Villa Belmiro. Coming after them late now is Balance of Power, but it's Ethereal Star. Ethereal Star too good. And Ethereal Star, she'll race away for a very comfortable win. Nice run in second, Balance of Power. Luberon was third and then followed over next by...
Really impressive performance by Ethereal Star. And Michael, a very expensive yearling, you could say $600,000 purchase for a number of top New Zealand performers. I suppose you could say we talk about Andrew Forsman on the show a lot lately, and his run of form is continuing with some really promising, exciting horses.
Yeah, Andrew was able to go to the Ready to Runs this week and buy the second top lot there for about $575,000. She's all class. You know, she's by Schnitzel. They paid a lot of money for her because she's well bred and she looks every inch a Karaka Million horse. So with that, I spoke to Andrew. Probably no trial even.
Okay.
So definitely no race heading into the Karaka Million. He said, but you know, she wanted either 3 or 4 good gallops to get her there. When you look at her, she looks a Karaka Million horse because what you're seeing right there, that's where the Karaka Million's held this time round.
Yes,
season.
of course, which makes... So she's been to Pukekohe,
Yep.
she's worked around that, yeah.
Slight uphill straight, January 21 is the day we're going. It's not the week of the sales. The sales start the following week, so 8 days later. So with her, they have the option now. They don't need to run on hard tracks if they don't want to. If it rains on the day, great, we know she can handle the wet. Then you start talking jockeys. Now, obviously, your husband, Opie, is going to be on the best of the Tiaka horses, so people know that, so he's out of play. You start saying, well, who's the non-Tiaka horse here who might be in play? And Ethereal Star just stands out. The 21st of January is actually a very weak stakes race day in Sydney and in Melbourne. There's the Carrington Stakes for 160 grand in Sydney, which is nothing for Sydney, and a bunch of normal races. I think they have the option of getting at least a couple of good Sydney jockeys here or a couple of good Melbourne jockeys. A lot of names being banded around. Some of those people have been ringing Andrew Forsman and saying, I wouldn't mind being on this horse.
Okay.
They want to be on a good horse.
And they know Andrew likes to take them across the Tasman later on, so they could potentially partner up with them after a Karaka Million.
They would love to. If you're an Australian jockey, why would you not love to be in a situation where Andrew Forsman is ringing you? I think this horse has the option to get one of the top guys or girls, because I'm sure there's some female riders who are pretty keen to come to Karaka Million as well. That would be enormous for the Karaka Million, having 1 or 2 of those top riders. Obviously, the top one will be James McDonald, if they can get James. James hasn't been home for a while. He would love to come home. He's a new dad. Lots of things play into that. So maybe he's at the top of the list. I don't think they need to make a rider commitment anytime soon, and there's still plenty of good good local jockeys. But when you look at her, it's easy to say, well, she's a bit big and she's probably not a natural Karaka Million horse. But when you go back over the last 10 years of Karaka Millions...
They've all gone on.
Well, also, Emma, I think it's really easy to think it's a squib, jump and run type race. But when you go Probabile, Melody Bell, Avantage, even on the bubbles who won at 1400...
Dynastic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Quality seems to win. A quality
strength,
horse.
Yeah, stronger horses, particularly around Pukekohe, over 1200 where there's nowhere to hide. So... I'm not saying she'll win, but I would say, in my mind, she should be favourite for the Karaka Million at this stage.
How much weight do you put on the heavy track? Because, I mean, if you look back at the last 10 years of Karaka Millions, it probably hasn't been heavy or anywhere near heavy. So was she flattered by the heavy track, or are we just...
I don't think it did her any harm, but I think she was really good to start before. I think she was more flattered by the distance. The further they go, the better she's going to get. And 1200's obviously a step up from the 1100. I just think she's a class horse. Second horse was really good, made up heaps of ground, a little bit of dynastic about him, that type of performance. And Luberon just got lost, just seemed to not enjoy being among other horses after jumping and running.
And maybe didn't handle the track as such. You could potentially say for some of them too.
I think there's no issue with her, going on with the job. But as we know, 2-year-olds is a long way to go, and a lot of the times we don't see them fully emerge till early January. But talking to Andrew, he's unlikely to emerge here anyway. She's going to go straight from here to a Karaka Million, which is often what they do with horses for the slipper as well.
He's proven to have done that, Andrew, too, because with Aegon, of course, he raced Aegon. I know it's over a mile, but it
exactly
was a fresh.
the same thing on Saturday.
He was able to have Aegon peaking on the day, wasn't he? So it's a tried and tested formula.
I said to him, would you go to those trials you went to with Aegon 2 weeks out? And he said, we may not even trial her. So he knows what he's doing, but the real bonus for him, no need to be running her up on hard tracks, whereas lots of horses who aren't qualified yet, Emily, will maybe have to go to tracks which are less than ideal in the month before the race.
Yeah. Well, very interesting, and it'll all play out over the next few weeks, won't it? It's not that far away, actually. Karaka Million there in middle to end of January. Well, our other feature race coming in from around the country on Saturday was, of course, our Puni. This is a look at the Bulls Cup, and it was a Roger James trained galloper that took the honours.
Dictation further back behind them. Subtle Point with the kick here. Dionysus 2 lengths behind it, starting to flatten out, and Dictation is right down the outside. Dionysus ranged up, hit the lead and gets away from them now from Subtle Point, Dictation, and then Lurid, but Dionysus down to the line, wins the Country Cup and wins it brilliantly. Second over, I think Subtle Point is close though.
Well, before the race, Michael, you said to me, you don't even need to watch it. It's a complete walkover job, and it just about was, wasn't it? Dionysus gets home very easily to take the honours there in the Bulls Cup.
Yeah, I think last season he looked like he was going to be a really good stayer, and quite clearly he's furnished more, which is what you expect from a James Wellwood horse. They look after them, they put them away, they give them time to mature. And spoke to Roger this morning. Roger's got a bit of a cold, so Roger, feel better soon. We'd like you to be back and around for the carnivals over Christmas, New Year. The target for her is the City of Auckland Cup, or the Queen Elizabeth as it's now going to be known. That's on New Year's Day, and then he said after that we can talk about the other options. Obvious cups, Wellington, because it's a Dixon-owned horse. They would love to have a Wellington Cup horse, and the Auckland Cup. But yeah, you can just see it's a horse
progressive
who's going to do a job at some stage. So on Pinarello, by the way, of the James Wellwood team, Pinarello's still in the paddock, so no hurry with Pinarello. Had a luckless wet spring in Sydney, so plenty of options at the back end of the season for him, whether that's Sydney again or Queensland revisiting the place he won the Queensland Derby. So they've got lots of options with them.
They most definitely have. Well, Michael mentioned at the start of the show what a busy sort of 10 days it had been. And this day last week, we had the running of the 1,000 guineas, and also, of course, the New Zealand Cup. Here's a look back at what the highlights were from that Monday.
Then came Golden Harvest, and the two favourites are well back, Kapua and Buoyant, stretched across the track, down the centre. Challa with Can I Get an Amen? OK, Powell burst through about 3 off the rail with Eminon. In the deep, Burgundy Rose runs on, and Buoyant revved up in the deep. OK, Powell the leader, Buoyant coming powerfully on the outside. He ranged up Buoyant, put them to bed at the 150, running on Kapua. Then came OK, Powell and Burgundy Rose, but Buoyant has often gone with the stewards. Buoyant won it. But it is Quota at the 500 metres, sticking hard on the rails. Starry Beale got a big gap to charge through. LJ presented. Finest Wine out in the deep, and then came In My Shadow. 300 to go in the cup, and LJ moved up on the outside as Starry Beale. In My Shadow trying to go with LJ, who put a couple of lengths in front. It's LJ. In My Shadow goes with him, and then came Starry Beale. LJ a half in front from In My Shadow. Morlaloa runs on. LJ In My Shadow's trying to rally. LJ In My Shadow, but it's Tina's Cup. On the outside, Blue Solitaire, back to the inside, Kiki Mora, still there in the deep as Bestseller, and Legato spots them 3. Well in the straight here, Bestseller moved up on the outside of Blue Solitaire. Legato now goes to full bore on the outside. She moved to Bestseller, then came Blue Solitaire, but wowee, off she goes, ladies and gentlemen. This nimble filly is a guinea star. Legato as easy as you like, won it by nearly 6.
Well, we knew she was good, but she absolutely brains them in the 1,000 guineas. Michael Legato, she has got a motor, hasn't she? And so exciting to see what she might do heading forward. Of course, we mentioned the Karaka Million 2-year-old, but we've also got the 3-year-old Karaka Million to consider as well.
Yeah, so that's where Ken Kelso and Bev are looking to take her next. So this is the 3-year-old race, the classic for the million. $1.80 is a little bit short, but gee, it'd be hard to bet against her. Wild Night, obviously we saw win the Sarton, so it'll be heading there too. That's a real big clash of the Tarapa winners. Mr Maestro spoke to Andrew Forsman, more likely to go to Australia. So I would not be putting Mr Maestro in your thoughts around that. And Dynastic is the interesting one. He's trying to defend his title from last year. What do you make of Legato? Because we ran a poll on the radio, very unscientific, on the radio on Saturday morning. Who has more potential? Who has more raw ability, Legato or Levante? And I know it's current and people are all excited about it, but a lot of people are saying Legato. And it's kind of hard to argue with, even though Levante obviously has beaten Rock and Horse in the Telegraph. I mean, for Ken and Bev, what two wonderful, and the owners, wonderful horses to have.
I guess Legato has been a little bit more dynamic in her racing style, where she can settle and therefore been able to sort of get the job done quicker. I think Levante had as much potential, but the way she used to get back off them, and there was a little fluffing around at the jumping out of the barriers, that I guess impeded her a little bit early in her career. But now that's all ironed out. I mean, she's an absolute weapon. But yeah, Legato at the same, I mean, so much potential. You just don't know. Sky's the limit, really.
I was trying to think of a better early season 3-year-old filly. We've been blessed with some of our later season 3-year-old fillies. And obviously Probabile was the benchmark, but she didn't race here as an early season 3-year-old.
Catalyst, that's the comparison I draw.
Yeah,
the way he
very
won.
Catalyst-ish.
And unbeaten. And I mean, he obviously went to Australia and met Alligator Blood and pushed
him to a nose.
Yeah, nose to nose. So
with her and She's
style.
Lickety Split, who again, I spoke to Andrew, is going to go to Sydney. With those two horses, we have a really big 1-2 punch for Sydney or Melbourne, depending if Ken and Bev want to travel this horse. Because after the Karaka Classic Mile, you have the Levin Classic for a Group 1 status. But I know that's important for mares or fillies, but gee, to be tempting to take her to Australia. Particularly now the owners have had a taste of it and a successful taste with Levante, and they know it's not impossible. It's easy to get carried away because Catalyst, we had the same thoughts about him 3 years ago.
He did measure up.
But he did. But this will be as an exciting and early season horse without the exposed form of a Probabile I think we've had here for quite some time. Whether she goes on with it, I don't know the answer. But it's pretty hard to believe she's not going to. Like if we had Imperatriz was good enough to win Group 1s against the older mares in April or May, very hard to make the case that this horse wouldn't be.
No, absolutely. I think sky's the limit, and look forward to seeing what Legato tackles next. We're going to get you off to a break here on Weigh In, but we leave you with one of our recent additions to the jockey ranks, and that was Joe Doyle, who made a very successful start to his career here in New Zealand with a double on his first day of riding.
To the clear. Then came Shadow Boxer, followed further back by Searchlight. It's Buck Cherry in front at the 150 from Daydream Believer. Prismatic is looking to warm up late. Then Bricky's Mojo Smug. It's Buck Cherry and Joe Doyle still in front here. Led a length and a half coming after Daydream Believer and Prismatic. Buck Cherry needs the post. Prismatic's lunging. Buck Cherry, and he's in his first race day ride in New Zealand for Joe Doyle. He's ridden at a treat.
I love to hear you say my name, especially when you say yes.
250 metres to go, and it's V-Rod the leader, led by a length and a half now. Coming after it, Golden Kiwi, Mr. Fantastic, and also running on out wide, Candy Flip. V-Rod the leader, Golden Kiwi's coming after it, and down the outside, Candy Flip. It's in the centre now, Golden Kiwi from Candy Flip and V-Rod. Golden Kiwi just in front for Joe Doyle in his first day of riding here in New Zealand. He thinks this is the greatest place in the world. 2 rides, 2 wins.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Well, a big well done to Janelle Smith, who's this week's winner of You Weigh In. Well done, Janelle. Janelle nominated all the barrier boys and girls who loaded the horses at Pukekohe on the weekend while in the rain, wouldn't be racing without them. So a big shout out to all the barrier boys and girls for their efforts. And well done to Janelle. She gets a $100 bonus back.
Actually, Emma, can I add the barrier assistance with Legato last week?
Oh, yes.
Because I lumped them all in together.
Yeah.
That was as stressful, as for the futures punters, as stressful a pre-race watch as I've ever seen.
How often do they do that and then win? Very,
Never.
very rarely.
Not Group 1s.
You just pretty much write your ticket off.
Not with a new bridle.
No.
So,
yeah.
barrier peoples on whole.
Shout out to them. Yeah. Very good. Up next, we're going to head across the Tasman and we want to take in the Gong. This was $1 million race coming out of Kembla Grange and it was won by the Kiwi, Riadini.
Riadini gets cracking the outside. Love Tap's gone very deep. Well, Planet back to the inside from Coldinger, and then came Promise of Success. They've got 2:50 to go. Surf Dancer hits the lead. Surf Dancer from the stablemate Riadini. Oscar Zulu between them. Wild Planet fights on. Hope in Your Heart coming home well, but Riadini hits the lead from Wild Planet. Riadini clear in the Gong. Hope in Your Heart late. Riadini's Gong. Riadini beat Hope in Your Heart. Old Flame Grab third just in front of Wild Planet. Then Brutality. Skylab late further back to Purple Sector.
Well, Riadini was kind of etched as one of the leading factors in the race as being a horse that would go forward and sit on speed, and just didn't really work out like that. Ended up in a little tricky position, sort of out wide, and really had to work hard, but gosh, was tough. That Waterhouse and Bot Polish was clear for everyone to see and got home really well with a long break between wins.
And a new thing we talk about, the Prasia Polish. Like when you think Dark Destroyers won a Group 1, which seemed a long time ago, but it's this season. Then you've had
a Guineas double.
Yeah, exactly. And Legato, who might be the most exciting horse in the country, and Levante being really good in the champion sprint. There's no chance he's going to be 17,500 next breeding season.
Prowess, of course. Yeah, the list is endless.
Just been a super spring for him. Now, one of the co-owners of Prasia at Rich Hill Stud is Alan Galbraith, and Alan's one of the nicest people in racing I've ever dealt with. Lovely guy, incredibly intelligent guy, obviously very highly up in the legal world. His wife, Liz, actually jacked up the breeding of this horse. It was her idea for that mare to go to this one. Liz sort of owns this horse more than Alan does, and he said, look, I'm really thrilled for her. Anybody who knows him is a fan. He's such a good guy and very quietly invested in horses like Prasia. So to Liz, congratulations to you, because this one's your victory. Horses at this level over there in Australia, $1 million is normal now. And he's raced in Doncasters, he's raced in proper races. So, yeah, he can have a range of major races in front of him. But for Prasia, this is a spring that John and Alan and everybody involved in the horse couldn't possibly have dreamed up.
No,
so,
never, not in a million years. And you'd think, based on what he's doing at the moment, the mares are only going to, or even what he's been doing over the past couple of years, the mares are getting better and better and better. So potentially we could see an even more sort of meteoric rise to fame with what he's able to do.
Well, it sort of maps Pur Encanto. Like Pur Encanto was a good stallion and they were very viable horses because they were quite chunky and muscular. And then all of a sudden they explode in Australia and into Hong Kong and everybody wants one. And that's how Pur Encanto's ended up at 50,000. Gee, I can't see any change out of 30 for Prasia next year. It may be more the way this has gone. And of course, it's a long time between this breeding season and next. So he's got more chance to embellish himself with a Legato type horse.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Well, the Kiwi success didn't stop there. Banker's Choice was also successful. This was in the Ballarat Cup and it was a dominant win.
Links in front around the corner. Future Score is going to hunt runs on the inside as Cirileo Miss drifts about 5 or 6 off. Foxy Frida runs on, then Banker's Choice, and back behind them Flasher. Where to look here in the Ballarat Cup? 200 to go. Foxy Frida, Banker's Choice with Future Score and a tissue late. Banker's Choice with 100 metres to go. Surges away. Banker's Choice. Johnny Allen's got his third Ballarat Cup. Banker's Choice won it well. A tissue, Cirileo Miss, then Future Score. Next Foxy Foxy Frida, Dark Dream Flasher, Lord Vladivostok, Bermudez, and last of all, Tokarangi.
It was a difficult day for punters at Ballarat with deteriorating track conditions. I think they started the day on a good track and ended up on a heavy track at the close. And Polly Gray was obviously scratched with an incident. She would have relished the heavy conditions. And that sort of opened the race up, and it really was between a Tissue and Banker's Choice. And of course, Banker's Choice, a lot of people felt it was D-Day because he hadn't won since he left New Zealand and he'd been racing in some good races. But was that the case, or was he maybe not a winner? But this proved that he was a winner, and great to see him back in grade scoring. He's
raced in really serious races, like he's run sixth in a Doncaster, and it just goes to show you, once you get just a level below the carnival, there's $500,000 there. So obviously still part owned in New Zealand. John Hart, JB Hart, is still in the ownership, so he and some mates have 25% of the horse, and great for Mongolian Khan. A Tissue really good. Again, further continues this New Zealand trend, and which has been so strong over the spring, and it's so easy to say to people, hey, I'm going to come back to Karaka, which is going to be January 29 this year. I'm going to come back and buy some of these things because they don't cost as much.
And they win.
And they win.
All the time.
Which helps. So, these are great, almost post-carnival advertisements. But of course, in summer, those advertisements are closer and closer to Karaka. We'll talk more about Karaka shortly, but gee, it all helps.
It does help. And you want a fun fact for the day? Darren Weir is the only person to have trained more Country Cups winners than Mike Moroney. So there you go, fact of weigh-in for you this morning. Let's get you next, though. You've heard a lot about South African jockeys and their arrival here in New Zealand. And we've got a little catch-up with Daniel Nahkle and Warren Kennedy off the back of a successful start to their career in New Zealand.
Well, I think you're the man responsible for a couple of South Africans on our racetracks in recent times. Talk us through how that process unfolded.
Yeah, Andre, well, partly responsible. Donovan Mansell was a big part of bringing Warren Kennedy and Craig Zaki over. As we know, Warren's champion rider in South Africa, and Craig is former champion apprentice over there. So Donovan's done a really good job picking the eyes out of the best and joining our riding ranks here. We certainly have a lot of great riders in New Zealand, but probably just not enough of them. So Warren and Craig, I think, will fit the bill really nicely here.
It sounds like a massive coup, because you couldn't see the likes of an Opie Boston and Craig Grill's been extracted out of New Zealand to go to South Africa. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, I think timing's everything. New Zealand racing, what we're seeing is glimmers of light. It's on the rise. We've got some really good leadership there with Bruce Sharrock and Cameron George, and I think we're really turning the corner there. And talking to Warren and Craig, they could see that. And at the same time, South Africa, unfortunately, is probably on a bit of a decline at the moment. So what's meant to happen is going to happen, and we were in a fortunate enough position to be able to secure the pair of them.
Now, my understanding is there are a couple of apprentices who may be apprenticed in New Zealand very shortly.
Yes, we have. We've got Donovan Cooper and Tristan Moodley have come over as well from South Africa in their late teens, early 20s. Have just completed their assessment with Noel Harris in terms of jump outs, and of which they've done several hundred over in South Africa, but have ticked the box in New Zealand, and we're looking very forward to seeing the guys head out to trial rides in the next couple of weeks, we hope.
From our industry, obviously this has been financially backed by yourself. Good on you, is what I have to say.
Oh, thanks, Andre. Look, it's a game that's I'm passionate about, and a big part of that is the people that you meet in this game. It's got a hell of a lot of good people, and hey, if we can add to that in New Zealand, all the better.
Might need a few more Nahkles in the industry by the sounds of it. Let's talk about the school that Donovan does a superb job with. Where is that at the moment?
That's going really well. We've got 19 students at the present time, and it was just by way of the creation of a pathway into racing and breeding in New Zealand. It had been lacking a little bit. We know we've got a great game here, but we've got a whole bunch of kids through Pony Club, or even outside of horses that have got an interest in it, but no real way to come in, or no real connection to the game. So we've just tried to provide that, and so far it's going really, really well. We've got our next intake opening in January, and it's starting to look, the numbers look really, really solid through there. But it's an introduction to the course, but we've just completed our level 3 as well, or in the last 3 weeks of that, and the students are going really, really well. We've got more track work riders than we know what to do with at the moment at Ballarat Park, so which is a good news story for the industry because they will be spread far and wide through the game.
Again, the school is financially supported by yourself heavily, but I think you've got big plans in terms of the government's involvement in that.
We'd like to attract government support for this. As we know, racing does a great deal for GDP in New Zealand in terms of exports and the number of people we employ, and we are certainly seeing real interest from the government, from Muka Tangata and the like. They're coming out to Bailey Park and to the Academy late this month, in numbers in fact as well. So they've taken a really good interest in what we're trying to achieve here and what we are achieving as well. So just a pity we haven't got the simulator quite back from the UK at this point in time. It'll be the first of its type in Australasia that is going to really support these track work riders and the Academy as well in terms of the apprentices going forward.
This venture, how long are you expected to stay over here?
Yeah, look, I've got a 3-year work visa at the moment, but to be honest with you, I'm hoping to make it a permanent fixture. I'm hoping to move to New Zealand and make this my new home, so hopefully all goes well and you'll see a lot more of me.
If one was to ask that the biggest difference between South Africa and New Zealand racing, what would you pinpoint?
Yeah, it would have to be the tracks. You know, South Africa, we've got really long running tracks. We do have sharp tracks, but predominantly we have long running 600, from 450 to about 1,000 meter running. The races are really flowing. You know, the pace increases as you go through the race. Yeah, it's a bit of a stop-start. They rush a bit to get position, and then it's steadied around the turn and sprint down the straight, which makes it difficult for the horses in the rear to make up that ground. But yeah, South Africa is more of a flowing race where horses are giving really, every horse has got a chance. They can come from off them. We've got a 1,000 meter running where they can improve their position in that straight and pounce the last 300-400 meters. So that's the main difference here is the tightness on the tracks and the shortness of the straights.
Generally, the Kiwi jockeys, how do they sort of compare with what you've been used to back home?
Yeah, no, there's some really good riders. It's different. There are riders that I feel have still got a lot to learn. They really don't read a race properly. You know, when you've been riding as long as I do, you're able to judge races and judge horses in front of you and around you and what's happening. You've got to take note of everything. And I think, you know, the guys here, there are some really, really good riders that will be able to compete anywhere. There are a few that need to up their game a little bit. You know, they're still learning. It all comes with experience and race riding. So the riding's not bad yet at all. I mean, I found it very competitive, and hopefully I can improve my skills and become one of the good riders here.
Great insight there into Warren Kennedy and, of course, Daniel Nahkle as well. Big thank you to Andre Neal for his ongoing contribution to Way and Love getting his pieces, and a big thank you to him for all of his hard work. There was one Group 1 race across the ditch over the weekend, and that was, of course, the Railway Stakes from Western Australia. It was taken out by Tricks of the Trade.
In the railway, they'd straightened up and Comfort Me made a run at them. Ranged up, grabbed the lead from Maritino. Resort Man got an inside run. Buster Bass, Search and Rocks behind them. Alaskan God, Tricks of the Trade. Tricks of the Trade is gathering them in. Here comes Tricks of the Trade. Tricks of the Trade pulls a little bit of magic out of his Tricks of the Trade, and he wins the Railway Stakes.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Well, the New Zealand Bloodstock Ready to Run sales were the highlight of last week, and there was some fantastic results across the board. We caught up with Shane Crawford to find out more.
Well, Shane, it must feel amazing. The top lot on day 2 so far, a big, beautiful son of Capitalist, and purchased by one of the best judges in the game, in John Foote.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah, awesome horse. Pretty much knew from day one when I first put a leg over him that he was a little bit special. So yeah, very happy, relieved, yeah, and all the above.
Tell us how he ended up in your care.
Oh look, we bought him in June. He's still on his breaking in prep, Magic Millions, and I think we got a bit lucky actually. And everything's just fallen into place. The Stallions had a couple of good winners in Hong Kong.
You've been doing this for a while. Is he one of the nicer horses you've bought to Karaka? Because as you know, not many get past the 500. Even good horses have to work really hard to get past there. When you get to past 600, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I'd have to say, you know, we've sold some good horses over the years. You know, to name a couple, Mongolian Khan, a horse that runs 6th in the Melbourne Cup. Daishan, Sweet Junior, horses like that. But this horse, yeah, he's just in a league of his own.
Vastly different type of horse to those two stayers.
Totally, yeah. You know, sprinter, very fast, powerful.
I know you're a pro, but you look a little bit stunned. You look like a man who's just had an out-of-body sales experience.
Yeah, the adrenaline's going through the body a bit. You know, it's good. It's a good feeling, good buzz. Haven't had it for a while.
Well done to Shane Crawford and the team with their success around that Capitalist colt, a really beautiful type. Mike Kneebone also gives us an overview of the sale as a whole.
Being up on the rostrum auctioneering today, there was more energy around the grounds. Did it feel different up there?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, yesterday afternoon is when it started to hit its straps, and I said that, people are starting to get their idea of what they want for their horses and putting reserves that were going to meet the market. And it was interesting watching the buyers as well. They'd already decided that they might have to lift their budgets up a little bit. And, a few people, likes of Jamie Richards and others that have bought very strongly today, felt that today might have been a bit of a stronger day for the horses too as far as quality goes. So, it's all in the luck of the draw, but at the end of the day, maybe the horses were a bit stronger today because of that.
Let's look at the results from today. These are still going to progress, of course. Some of the past lots will still be sold, and getting the clearance up to 75 is crucial because that means money goes in people's accounts. You see names, you mentioned Andy Williams, at the other end of the spectrum, John Foote, one of the most experienced and respected agents in the business, purchasing the top lot at 625. But at any ready-to-run sale in the world, Michael, that would be respectable now at 75. The average is up, and I would presume in the next couple of days there's going to be a 2 or 3% addition to their clearance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're getting people ringing us, before I walked on here, Kane Jones.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, we'll be charging extra. But there's people calling all the time looking for passed-in horses, and in a number of cases we're going straight to the vendors and they've already just done the deals with them, and there's some pretty quick people around. I noticed I went down to Ahukia just a few moments ago to buy a Savabeel, and Baz McCullum had already got in before me. So there's people that are out there watching online, and they're very keen to get something that may have passed in. And as you saw yesterday with the selling rate creeping up, I think it could even get higher again by tomorrow.
Let's talk about the resurgence, not only in the Asian market, buying out of Hong Kong. Singapore was maybe stronger than some people had expected, Michael, but also having those people here on the ground, having our friends from Hong Kong, our Chinese friends, our friends from Malaysia and Korea even here. It changed the dynamic of the day. It just feels more enriched and more energy when you have all those buyers here, as much as our online platform is fantastic, rather than buying online.
Oh, 100%. And they've had an absolute ball since they've arrived here, all of them. We had something like about 30 people out at the Grand Harbour in Auckland City during the week. And
are you in charge of the credit card for that?
Well, Sir Peter is ultimately. but I do my best for them, you know. Look, they love coming here. And we talked about it last night that maybe we might have to lift our budgets. I mean, I thought Malaysia were outstanding. They really came to the party today. They struggled to keep it up with the market yesterday, and today they were a force to be reckoned with. South Korea, well, they're a work in progress. But they bought exactly what they wanted, and they're already on their way home tonight and very, very happy.
They were very smart. They bought early on the first day. Very
did.
Smart, the Koreans.
Yes, and I think it was Andrew Seabrook that said to them, look, if I could give you one piece of advice, go early. And they certainly did that and bought some really nice horses. They're very, very happy. Singapore, once again, look, there's no secret that Singapore's struggled over the last few years, but they've come back into the market quite strongly. They bought some really nice horses, and you know, once they get the results that we know they can get from the sale, they'll be back again next year, and we'll welcome them with open arms.
Really encouraging to see Tumi Loose go for $500,000, and Embellish went for $200,000 today, and they seem to like the big dark embellishes. Obviously, it's important we have these new stallions coming through because Savabeel can't live forever. And we've seen a bit of stallion strength here in horses who maybe weren't quite as popular in the case of Tumi Loose a year or two ago.
Yeah, and I think too that you know, the Ready to Run really is all about type. It's all about style. It's all about how they go up, run up, and you know, that's why we've seen horses come out of the sale by size that you might think are a little bit left field. But it's really exciting to see a sire like Embellish, because he's by our great sire Savabeel, and look, we need those ones coming through, and everybody appreciates those breeds. They love coming here to buy those big strong horses, and he's certainly one that filled the gap today.
For the breeders watching this online or at home, and all the owners of horses who potentially are coming here for the yearling sales in January, which will come around awfully quickly, can they be encouraged by what they saw in the last 2 days?
Oh, I think so. And like we really did hit the nail on the head yesterday. We knew that this was a sale that always takes a little bit of time to warm up. But there's been some amazing pinhook results over the last few days. I mean, I've seen several come through where they've paid $30,000 and $40,000 for good types of horses. They've done a beautiful job on them, and they've made a couple of $100,000 in the sale ring. Well, that's what it's all about. And I would think that buyers, astute buyers, will be coming here next year at Karaka. It's really, when you look at the trial market and the racehorse market, and really the ready to run market now, the yearling sale is just an absolute goldmine to be looking for a nice horse.
Big thanks to Mike Kneebone for his time there on what was, albeit a very successful sale, Michael.
Yeah, second day was really strong. First day, ready to runs, people were sort of finding their feet, but great to have so many overseas people back on the grounds, particularly from Asia, where they haven't been able to get to us for a long time. So great results. Sales catalogue's out for January. It happens really quickly. So the yearling sales catalogue released today online. You'll get them in the mail at some stage, but online, so we go again. And that sale indicated to me we're going to have a great sale in January. But when you talk about the ready to runs, there's no bigger name in the ready to runs recently than Golden 60, who was back last night.
Yeah, Golden 60 was back with a bang, and we look forward to a big couple of weeks actually out of Hong Kong. And as we say goodbye for the show this week, we leave you with the Golden 60's victory in Hong Kong from last night.
California Spangle leads, 3:50 to go, and he has a kick as you'd expect. Golden 60's 2 lengths away. Here's the race we wanted to see. Spangle against 60. Spangle still a length in front of Golden 60. The champ won't lie down. California Spangle, Golden 60. He's not ready to surrender that crown, and he's going to beat him. Golden 60, all class, all champion.